Добрий день, колеги! З вами Надя Макаренко і туристичний оператор Тревел Дизайнер. Сьогодні, як завжди, середа, і ми раді сьогодні представити вам новий вебінар, присвячений. Сьогодні ми поговоримо про заклади розміщення в Уганді. Сьогодні з нами пані Елі. Вона є представник готельної мережі в Уганді. Сьогодні ми більш детально дізнаємось про ці неймовірні лоджі і кемпи. І впевнена, що це буде хороший додатковий матеріал також в рамках того, що ми раніше говорили з вами вже про Уганду. Минулого місяця ми також проводили вебінар по цій країні. Тож я переходжу на англійську, передаю слово пані Елі, і вона нам покаже свою презентацію.
I work for a company called Honourway, and we do marketing and representation in the UK and Europe for properties across Africa. We work with family-run properties mainly, sort of off the beaten track, experiential travel that offers guests that extra special, something a little bit different. And we have properties in South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and we work with the DMC in Zambia too. So today we're going to have a look at our Uganda properties. And we are working with a company called Wild Places. And Wild Places have been going for around 20 years now. And these are their selection of properties that we have. So they make a really wonderful circuit all around Uganda. And what's really important for us is that we promote people staying in Uganda as a destination, because a lot of people come to do the gorillas and then they fly out and they go to do their safari in Kenya or Tanzania. But we think people should stay in Uganda because there is so much to offer, so much amazing wildlife, culture. The most beautiful scenery that we've ever seen in Africa is in Uganda. So this is all about sort of putting together a circuit which includes all of these properties. So I'm going to run through them one by one for you, and hopefully you'll love what you see. So as I said, it's a family-run collection of properties. So we have Jonathan and Pamela here and their children Arabella and Fergus, and they have been running this from the start. It's their sort of passion project as such, and they're all very involved with the running and the operations of the company. So in terms of Uganda, if we're looking at this map, our properties are marked out by the yellow dots. So our first one is Clouds, which is in Bwindi down here. So that's your gorilla property. That's where we do the gorilla trekking. And then we move up here into the Queen Elizabeth area where we have Honey Bear and we have River Station. And then you move up to Semliki, and then we have Papa's Camp in Murchison Falls. And then we finish off with Apoka up in Kidepo Valley. We have a new property being added to the portfolio in Murchison Falls. So it's kind of looking to be done by January next year. So that will get added to the portfolio as well. All of these properties are connected by flight routes from Entebbe. So you can use Aerolink Uganda, which is a great airline to use, and that connects all the properties. But you can also do drives to each one. And I think driving around Uganda is actually a really fantastic option if your clients have a lower budget, especially, and they can't do all of the flying around. It's a really good option, and you see so much beautiful scenery because Uganda changes its landscapes and its environments every chunk that you move up. So every section is completely different. So all of these properties, you see something completely different to the one you've just seen. It really is amazing. So driving, it's okay. Some of these are quite big drives, so we'd maybe say fly for the big ones. But these properties in the left-hand side in the west, you could very easily drive to around 3-4 hours in between, so it's not too bad. Also, if you have any questions, please just interrupt and shout them out at me as we go. In terms of Wild Places as a company itself, so they're very, very heavily focused on conservation. They've been working for over 30 years in conservation around Uganda. 100%, so all of their properties support conservation initiatives in each of the areas that they're based. And they've so far, through Clouds, the gorilla lodge that I'll tell you about in a minute, they've raised over $2 million for community development. So it's a really amazing thing that they've set up here, and it's really benefiting the people and wildlife of Uganda. So very proud to work with them. So our first property is Clouds, and this is down in Bwindi, Impenetrable Forest. So this is in the very southwest of Uganda. So this is a map of Bwindi in green here. And we are based on the west, so the southwest-hand side in a place called Inkaringo. And Inkaringo is a brilliant place for gorilla trekking. You may have heard of Bahoma, that's also a very good spot. But Inkaringo is where we're based, and we're very close to the Rushaga Gate too. And the Rushaga also has groups of gorillas here. So we have two groups of gorillas that you can trek with when you're based at Clouds, the Inkaringo group and the Rushaga group. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But what's brilliant about Clouds is that you can walk from the property straight into your gorilla trekking. So you don't have to drive. A lot of the lodges in Bwindi, you have to get into a vehicle and drive to the starting point before you then do your walk. What's great about Clouds is that you can walk straight out of your lodge, out of your front door and into the forest. So it's very, very central. It's called Clouds because you really are up in the clouds. It's a mountain lodge. In the sort of wetter seasons, it's just amazing. The clouds come all the way up into the property. I mean, you can't see much because you're in the clouds, but it's a very amazing experience to be in this sort of hazy globe. But when the clouds are gone, you can see the Rwenzori mountain range and all the volcanoes. So the view from up there, whether it's in your sort of cloudy season or whether it's dry, is going to be equally as impressive. And you have all your meals out on this deck, so you're literally eating in the clouds, which is a really sort of spectacular experience. In terms of the lodge itself, it's like a mountain chalet style property. So it's very cold when you go further up there. It's warm during the day, but it gets very chilly in the evenings. So we sort of light all the fires in the evenings. They bring out blankets, sort of hot water bottles, pull all the curtains, and you do get really cozy. So it's not a tropical destination. It's very, as you go up these mountains in Bwindi, the temperature really does drop. So you're never going to be cold in the lodge though, because it's so, so cozy. And as I said, it's sort of designed like a very comfy living room, sitting room style, big roaring fires, and your sort of meal times will be set up by the fireplaces. So it's very, very cozy. When you've come back from your gorilla trek and you're really exhausted and they just light all the fires and you snuggle up for the evening, it's a really beautiful place to be. In terms of your rooms, they're cottages. So we've got 6 cottages, and the family ones have 2 bedrooms and this sort of communal living space. All the lodges have their own sort of fireplaces as well. So if you don't want to be in the main area, you can be in your own private cottage and have your fireplace lit and just get really, really cozy in there as well. Beautiful big ensuite bathrooms as well in both properties. And there you can see it sort of perched, situated on the hill. So really built into the mountain, really leafy, very tropical. That's your main building there. And then your cottages are sort of dipped down underneath as well. And they have their own wonderful garden. So all of the food that you're having, it's like farm to fork kind of style. So grown in the garden as well. So as I said, it's fantastic because you can walk straight into your gorilla trekking. And it's a descent down into the where the Nkaringo group are for about an hour. You walk down, and then you're in the forest, and then you get to try and find them. So in terms of our groups, we have 4 gorilla groups in the Nkaringo area, and then we also go trekking in the Rushaga section, and there's 10 gorilla groups there. Now in the Nkaringo area, none of these groups are habituated as such, so you can only do the 1-hour experience. So I don't know if you know sort of about the gorilla trekking and such, but you can do the 1-hour trek where when you find them, the timer starts and you're with them for an hour and then you have to leave, or you can do the habituation experience where when you find them and you're going with the researchers and the people that are doing the familiarization, you can be with them for up to 4 hours. So there is a difference there. The price is $800 for the gorilla trekking for 1 hour. And if you're doing the habituations experience, it's $1,200. So it's a bit of a difference in the price, but you do get an amazing with the habituation because you can really spend that time to connect with them rather than just an hour. Because I think the hour goes very quickly. You find them and then you're like, really? So you can do the habituation 4 hour experience in the Rashaga area, which you have to drive to for 10 minutes from the lodge. But the walking experience straight from you can do with the Inkaringo for 1 hour. They've just had a brand new baby that was born in the Inkaringo group, very, very new. So we're doing a naming ceremony for the baby very soon because it's very special when one's born. And as I sort of mentioned at the start, it is actually a community-owned lodge. So they rent it off of the local community, and all the money, about 70% of the money from the lodge goes back into the community, and that goes into gorilla conservation. So it was actually set up as a project to help protect the gorillas, and so far it's been extremely successful. So it's a really awesome example of conservation and communities and tourism all working hand in hand. So it really is there for the purpose of the gorillas. So that's clouds. Do you have any questions on clouds whilst we're there?
So far, no question from my side.
Brilliant. So the next one we have is called Honey Bear Bush Camp. And this is in the Kyambura Game Reserve. So this is in the sort of Queen Elizabeth area, but it's in a separate little reserve called Kyambura. I'll show you on the map. So in green, you can see the Queen Elizabeth. And then on this side where the yellow dot is, you have Kyambura Reserve. So it's separated from Queen Elizabeth by the Kazinga Channel, which is the sort of river that runs all the way through in between Lake Edward here and Lake George here. So there's this channel that goes all the way through, separating the two lakes and separating Kyambura off from Queen Elizabeth. So it's in the Queen Elizabeth Conservation Area, but it's its own game reserve as such. So it's got its separate gate, separate wildlife, things like that. So Honey Bear is situated right on the waterfront of the Kazinga Channel, and it's a beautiful, very homely, very cozy tented camp. And it's a bush camp, so it is completely open to the wild. You get elephants, buffaloes, hippos walking through all the time. So there is an age limit on this camp of 12 years and over, purely because it is so wild, and there is the water as well. So not suitable for younger children, but brilliant for multi-generational families with older kids. So it's 5 tents, really beautiful double tents, all with ensuite bathrooms. And all of the rooms look out onto the river, and you have some amazing animal sightings when you're there. We had elephants literally right up against the netting of the tent. You're seeing and hearing things all the time, so it really is a very active place to be, and very relaxing at the same time. So you can access the reserve by car if you're driving. So we drove from Clouds to here, and it took around 3.5 hours, and it was a beautiful drive because you're very high up at Clouds and you go all the way down into the clouds and out into the more classic Africa kind of open plains. So that's a good drive to do. Or you can access it by boat across the channel if you're coming from the Queen Elizabeth side, which is also a really fun way to arrive at your camp sort of by a boat. There are so many things you can do when you're at Honey Bear. So we have these incredible crater lakes that surround the property. And because we're the only operating lodge within the game reserve, so it's very, very private. You're not going to bump into any other vehicles. It's just for you. Because we're the only ones there, we can go off on these amazing walks and be very sort of free to explore. And the scenery, it blows your mind how beautiful it is. And you can walk right down into the bottom of the craters with an armed guide. You can go out with the rangers. They've got an amazing female ranger there called Ruth. who's sort of one of the pioneering female rangers in Uganda, and she takes you out on these amazing walks, and sort of tells you what it's like to be a woman in Uganda that wants to be a ranger. It's really interesting to talk to her. And then we also have the Kyambura Gorge, which is about half an hour to 40 minutes from the property, and it's where you can go chimp tracking. And it's absolutely phenomenal to do. It's $180 for a chimp permit, and you drive from Honeyway, and as I said, about 30 to 40 minutes. And the walk down into the chimps is quite steep, but it is suitable for any abilities. It's not really, really difficult. And then when you're in the forest, you're in this it's like a valley. They call it the Valley of the Apes, because the chimps, they live in this valley. They don't come out. They're sort of, it's very, very big, but they're sort of in the middle. And you can walk for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and you'll hear them in the trees and you track them. And then when you find them, you have an hour. Like with the gorillas, you have 1 hour on the clock. But we walked for 10 minutes and they were right there in front of us, a whole big family of about 40. And we stayed with them for just over an hour. It was wonderful. It's much more active than your gorilla trekking. They're moving in the trees, they're sort of running, and whereas the gorillas are quite still and they walk slowly, chimps are crazy, they're everywhere. So it's a very different experience. So we always recommend to do it as well as the gorillas, just because it's different. And then we also have the river station, which is in the same area as Honeyway. So it is 5 minutes down the river, but this is your more higher budget property. Honeyway is your lower budget property. So they offer the same activities, the same things to do, same sort of walks and chimp tracking, but just in a more high-end environment. River Station is very new. It only opened in November last year, so it's a very, very new property. And as I said, it's exactly the same location as the first one. It's just further along the river. Excuse me. So instead of being sort of little tents like at Honeyway, we have more permanent camps. We have more permanent rooms. We have 10 rooms here at River Station, and each one has its own private plunge pool out the front, and they're all overlooking again onto the channel. So you have your elephants, your hippos, your buffaloes. It's again very active, and it is also a 12 plus age limit on this camp because it is a bush camp. It's very wild. But the rooms are just a bit bigger. They're just a bit more sort of elaborately done. These beautiful day beds outside for you to relax on. Beautiful, sort of very sumptuous beds. They're very beautifully done, and big, big, big double bathrooms, big showers. It's quite an impressive lodge that they've built here. And beautiful bar, sort of sitting area. The whole property is surrounded by water here. So in front, as I said, you have the channel, but then I'll come back to that picture. But then around the side, you have a big lake, and then you have a pond on one side. So there's activity and animals everywhere. So you can lie in this beautiful pool and see all of these elephants. It really is just wonderful. Now, they've also brought over from Kenya a Kenyan sailing dhow, they call them, or boat, but it's the traditional sailing dhow. It's been brought over from Kenya, and it's the only one in Uganda. They don't have one anywhere else. And you can go up and down the channel sailing, and you can bring your sundowners and your drinks in the evening and your some snacks, and go out on the river and go sailing. It's a really fun addition to add to the property. Makes it sort of very unique and stand out in terms of what's offered in Uganda. So that's Honeyway and River Station. Any questions on those ones?
Yes, we do have a question from
Brilliant.
Daria. She's asking about what type of board is included in this case.
Full board. So all meals, all drinks, and all activities as well, apart from getting permits to go to see the chimps extra. So full boards.
Super, thank you.
So the next one we have is Semliki. So again, this is a little bit further up. And you can see again the landscape has changed completely. So you're now in sort of plantations and hills and not as flat and as water around the water like the last property. It's much more lush and green, and it's where all the farms are. So you see a completely different side again to Uganda. So on our map, if we have a look, so we were just here in Queen Elizabeth, and now we've driven up to sort of Fort Portal area, and we've gone into Semliki National Park. Again, this is a very easy drive. It's around 3 hours, but you can also fly to these properties. But the drives are just so good that we always suggest it's better for the environment too if people are driving and not flying everywhere. And the drive you go through Kibali, which also you see the wild chimps as well around you, which is really interesting. So Semliki is the first property that Wild Places built. They call it their baby. It's how it all started. It's where it all began. And in terms of scenery and landscapes, I would say that Semliki is the most impressive property. It's surrounded by these incredible sort of escarpment mountains in the background, and it's in a mixture of jungle and open savannas. So you get a real mix of lush tropical jungle, but then also open plains where you have your sort of big herds of buffalo and elephants like that. But in this forest, we have really interesting animals as well, like forest elephants, which are very rare. So that's always quite exciting to see as well. In terms of your rooms, we've got about 10 cottages here too. So there's a lot of properties, and they're all big family rooms as well. So the main area is this sort of lovely wooden, very comfy, very homely structure. It's where you have your meals in the sort of dining space, but you can also have them by the swimming pool as well. Keep using my mouse. And as I said, our rooms, they're very, very big, very spacious, great for families, and they've all got sort of private balconies that go out and look over the jungle. And at night you can hear the chimpanzees in the forest because they also have chimpanzees here. And it's amazing for birders. So many species of birds here. It really comes alive in terms of its bird life. You've got your beautiful views out. We say that Semliki is your rest and recharge property. So if you are doing a sort of drive up across Uganda, or if you are doing lots of properties, or even if you're just doing one but you want to sort of relax and rest afterwards, this is the one to come to. It's very calming. It's beautiful scenery, and it's just very, very homely. They set up some beautiful sundowner spots and sort of bush dinners and surprise lunches for you out in the plains. Because again, they're the only operating lodge in the area, so we have complete exclusivity. You can go anywhere you want, explore when you want, and sort of see what you want. And go out on these amazing walks with the rangers, and you can go up into these hills, you can go all the way to like Lake Albert, you can go across the plains. The grasses are so tall, they come up over your head. It's so neat. It's really exciting and dynamic, but also very relaxing as well at the same time. And as I said, just birders, it's a bird paradise. Lake Albert is really close, so about a sort of half-an-hour drive in your car, you go to Lake Albert, and this is where you'll find your shoebill. So that is the very rare, very scary bird that is the shoebill, and we love them, but they are very prehistoric. And it's very exciting to go out and see them. So Lake Albert is the most amount of shoebills in Uganda and in Africa, I believe. So you do have quite a high chance of seeing them, and it's magical when you do, because they do look like a dinosaur. So that's why a lot of people come up to Semliki is for the shoebill. We also do have a different variety of chimpanzees at Semliki. So we have a species of chimp that is more closely related to human beings than any other species of chimpanzee, and they're only found in the Semliki forest. So it's very, very exciting when you find them. We have researchers and scientists and rangers that are out with them every day, tracking them and monitoring them. There's been lots of projects on them, because the exciting thing about, so if you have people that are really into wildlife, tell them about these chimpanzees, because they've learned and evolved to walk up on their legs like humans and walk out of the forest into the black grass. So you see them walking like this rather than like this, like all the other chimps. So they are the closest living relatives to human beings on the planet, very intelligent. So you can have the researchers come into the lodge and tell you all about these chimpanzees, or you can go out and track them as well. But they're really hard to find, so it is a little bit more tricky than if you're in the gorge in Kyambura. It's more difficult here, but the forest here is more interesting. There's more species, there's more amazing plants and birds. So it's an amazing experience to do, even if you don't get to see the chimps. And as I also mentioned, we do have forest elephants here, which are really amazing. Got some lovely herds. They've got a much smaller eye and straight tusks rather than your curved tusks of your African elephant. So if you see one of these, it's also very special. So Semliki, it's a bit different. We've got some crazy wildlife, crazy scenery, but also a chance to really just relax. Any questions on Semliki? Cool. Brilliant. So our next one is Papa's Camp, and this is in Murchison Falls National Park. Now, this camp is so special because it's situated right on the banks of the River Nile. So it is really impressive when you arrive and all you can hear is this push of the water, and you realize that your tent is right there on the steps of the River Nile. Like, it's so special to be able to do that. And also, there is an age limit on this property for 12 plus too, because it is so waterfront, and that water is moving at quite a speed. So 12 plus is what we recommend. In terms of location, so this is Murchison Falls National Park, and we are right here, slap bang in the middle on the River Nile. And we are actually situated in a low usage zone. So despite it being a very busy park, because lots of tourists love Murchison Falls National Park, it's very beautiful. But despite this, we are in an area of the park that guests have to pay, if they're not with the lodge, public guests have to pay an extra $130 or something like that to enter into this area. So people don't do it. The guides, they don't want to pay it, so they avoid that area. So we have, again, this sort of feeling of exclusivity, of complete privacy, even though we're in a very busy park. And Papa's Camp is designed very similarly to Honey Bear. So it's the same style that they've chosen to decorate it with, that same very cozy bush camp style, but with a sort of very luxurious element to it as well. We have this big, long dining, sitting area. Again, you can see the Nile is just out the front, completely open to the water. And then we have 5 tents as well, same as Honey Bear, so only 5 tents, double tents, beautiful bathrooms dotted around the property, literally on the banks of the Nile. The hippos that you can hear at night, the sound of the water, it's really unique. I haven't experienced anything like that before. It's very, very sort of surreal being by the water. You hear it all night and then you stop hearing it because you become so used to the sound of the water and you feel just very relaxed and very calm. And then obviously we have Murchison Falls, the waterfall. So this is actually the most powerful waterfall in the world. So the highest amount of water is coming over this waterfall every second compared to other waterfalls. But it's not that known by people. So it's a really, really amazing thing to see. And what you can do when you're staying at Papa's is you can take a car out into where the waterfall is and then take a river boat across the Nile. So you go up and you can go to the bottom of the falls and see it from there. And then you can drive to the top of the falls. So you can see the bottom and the top and get 2 very different experiences. So we always say to people at Papa's Camp, go and do a boat cruise on the Nile and look at the falls and then drive to the top, because the top is amazing. You get completely covered in water and all the steam and the mist. It's incredible to see. But from the bottom on the Nile, you also get to see all the wildlife in the Nile. So the big Nile crocodiles, which are just terrifying, but they're amazing to see. And so many beautiful birds as well. So there's a big boat that is open to the public that does that, but we also have some smaller, faster boats that we work with Wild Places, so you can have a sort of more intimate, faster paced experience. And then in terms of wildlife in Murchison Falls, the lion population in Uganda is really declining at the moment, but in Murchison Falls, especially in the area that we're based in, that low usage zone, we have so many lions. It's actually amazing. Every single drive that we went out on, we had lions, lions, lions. You're almost like, oh, it's another lion. Oh. Like it almost becomes, never I say boring, but you see so many of them. So people that want to tick off lions, Murchison Falls National Park, you will see them. We had some amazing sightings of them on kills. They have pubs, big male lions that sort of come really close to the camp. So it really is a lion paradise there, which is really amazing because the populations of lions are going down in Uganda. So here seems to be the only place that they're thriving, which is just fantastic that we have access to that. You also have giraffes in this park, and you don't get giraffes in the sort of southern part of Uganda. You get them as you move further up. Some really beautiful giraffes, and then just so much other wildlife. It really is fantastic game drives. And then obviously you can go fishing because you're on the Nile. You catch some big Nile perch, some catfish. You can do catch and release because these fish are very, very precious and very big. But it's an amazing activity for people that want to get stuck into that as well. And then our sundowners that we set them up in an old canoe. And sort of when you're done with your game drive, they'll set up a little surprise sundowner for you. And then you just hear the hyenas as you're having your drinks. And then the lions start roaring and you know it's time to go home. So it's a really some beautiful scenery that they choose for this. And that is Papa's. Any question on Papa's camp? No? Fab. Then our last one is Apoka. So this again is one of the oldest ones in the collection, and this property is really far north. But this is one that we would say you fly to because we have an airstrip, and also it's literally in the most northern part of Uganda. It's on the Sudanese border here. So if you're driving, it's from Entebbe or Kampala, it's going to take you 12 hours, 14 hours. It's too big. So definitely fly into this property. So this is the Kidepo Valley National Park. And it is famous for its huge herds of buffalo, huge herds of elephants. They call them mega herds. And you don't get them sort of in many other places in this vast amount. So it's a very impressive area in terms of wildlife. It's very open, expansive. It's quite dry. It's quite hot because you've gone further up. But it really is visually very, very impressive. In terms of the lodge, we have probably the most beautiful swimming pool in the whole of Africa because it is built into this natural rock formation. They dug in, and it is the light on the water. It's so nice and cold as well. But it is just beautiful, and this lovely pool house, and the pool just looks out over into the plains, and you've got your water buck, your giraffe, your elephant just coming up. So it's a very relaxing but very sort of wildlife hot property. And then what you can see in the background is the sort of main mess area, relaxing area, and sort of dining area too. This is the beautiful swimming pool in the evenings. On the left, that was on the trip we've just done. So animals are coming up over the rocks whilst you're in the pool, and the skies are just stunning. And then we have these monkeys called patas monkeys that come and drink from the pool with their babies strapped to their tummies. So there's a lot going on here, but as you can tell, it's a very calming environment to sort of be in. The best sunsets I've ever seen over that swimming pool. In terms of your rooms, we have, I think it's 8 big rooms, and they're all sort of very spacious inside, sort of classic wooden designed, big bathrooms, and all of them have a sort of private terrace as well. So at night time, you can sort of have a look through and you've got animals coming up right around your room. So it is again quite wild, but it's perfectly safe when you're in your rooms. But you have a lovely reading space and a relaxing chair outside your room. And we also have a beautiful, beautiful dining tent with a watering hole just down below. So you have a constant stream of animals coming through. There's a little hide down below that you can go and sit in, so you can get very close to the animals. And then on the left here, you can see the watchtower that we have. So you can go up right to the top and have your breakfast up there. Very romantic. It's just 360 views of the whole park, but it's a really special thing to do, to go up and have your breakfast up there, and catch that morning light. The rooms also do have little baths that you can get set up, so you can request that before you go out on one of your drives. You come back and it's all filled up and ready for you, which is just a really lovely touch. And again, just looking out over the wild. And as I said, we have mega herds of wildlife up here. This is a small number, but this went on and on and on and on. It's very, very impressive. And we also have a huge amount of leopards up here. So in terms of cats, there are not so many lions, but leopards, we had leopards on every single game drive we did, and we did 6 game drives and we saw 6 different leopards. So it's really, really amazing to have that. The guide said to us, he said, "I will find you a leopard every day." And we said, "No, you won't. No one does that." And he did 6 different leopards. So it was very impressive. One on a kill, one up a tree. It's amazing. So in terms of your wildlife, we say to people, Uganda has everything that Kenya has, that Tanzania has. People just don't know that it's there. And so we don't need to come in and see the gorillas and then go on safari in Kenya. You can see the gorillas and then do some kind of circuit above, and try and keep people in Uganda because it's beautiful. We've got some fantastic game drives, game sightings, and some lovely giraffes as well that all come up to the property. We do some walking safaris here as well, going out with an armed ranger. And we can also do visits to the Karamojong, which are the tribe that are up there. All the staff at the camp are from the Karamojong, and it's a really amazing tribe to learn about. And they have a very authentic relationship with the local community. So you can go and visit one of the villages, and in an authentic, non-touristy, just genuine way to go and have it to learn, because they're a fascinating tribe, really, really interesting. One of the oldest in Africa. So that is Wild Places. It's all of our properties. The one that we're opening is in the same area as Papa's Camp. It's called Kula Ora, and it's because Papa's Camp, as I said, is very similar to Honey Bear. And then Honey Bear has the river station, which is more upmarket. So Papa's Camp is going to have Kula Ora, which is more upmarket too. So same sort of idea. One more lower budget, one more higher budget, but in the same place. So hopefully that makes sense.
Шановні колеги, ми завершуємо наш вебінар. Сьогодні, я думаю, що ми досить плідно попрацювали. Ми проговорили 5 лоджів, які розташовані в Уганді. І також у нас планується ще додаткова сесія з Елі, яка буде, ми будемо говорити 23 липня цього місяця про також деякі лоджі, які розташовані в Кенії. Тож приєднуйтесь, розклад буду вам комунікувати, приєднуйтесь, і всі додаткові матеріали, які я отримую від Елі, я дійсно надішлю вам, щоб ви могли також ними користуватися для промоції Уганди. Якщо у вас залишаються додаткові питання, ви завжди можете з нами контактувати по пошті, месенджерам в зручний для вас спосіб. Бажаю вам гарного дня, бережіть себе, дякую.